Across our planet lie zones so dangerous, sacred, or secretive that stepping inside them is forbidden by law, tradition, or fear itself. Located along Japan's northeastern Pacific coastline, the zone formed after a magnitude 9 earthquake unleashed a tsunami that crippled the Fukushima Daiichi power plant. The region's geography mixes coastal plains with forested hills, once home to fishing villages and rice paddies. Decontamination has reopened some towns, but designated difficult-to-return districts remain sealed, overgrown, and eerily silent. Wild boar now roam empty streets, while radiation monitors and abandoned vehicles mark a landscape suspended between recovery and permanent memorial. Part of India's Andaman Islands in the Bay of Bengal, this small forested island rises from coral reefs that have historically wrecked approaching ships. Dense tropical jungle covers volcanic origin terrain, sustaining the Sentinelese, a hunter-gatherer people who have rejected contact for thousands of years. Indian law strictly prohibits anyone from approaching within several kilometers, protecting both the tribe's isolation and their vulnerability to disease. Surrounding waters teem with coral biodiversity, while the island itself remains almost entirely unmapped and unexplored. Nestled in Nevada's remote Grim Lake Basin within the Great Basin Desert, this military installation sits on a dry lake bed surrounded by rugged mountain ranges. The arid climate and isolation made it ideal for secret aircraft testing since the Cold War era. Signs warn that deadly force is authorized against trespassers. Though officially acknowledged only decades after its creation, the facility's secrecy fueled decades of extraterrestrial folklore, transforming an ordinary military testing ground into pop culture's most famous forbidden zone. Situated in Venice's shallow lagoon, this tiny island formed from centuries of sediment deposits between the Adriatic Sea and mainland Italy. During plague outbreaks, it served as a quarantine station where thousands of infected victims reportedly died and were buried en masse. Later converted into a psychiatric hospital, it was abandoned in the 1960s. Local legend claims nearly half its soil contains human remains, and persistent ghost stories, combined with structural decay, keep official access tightly restricted today. Located off Brazil's southeastern coast near Sao Paulo, this small island separated from the mainland roughly 11,000 years ago as rising sea levels flooded the surrounding lowlands. Isolation allowed the golden lancehead viper, among the world's most venomous snakes, to evolve without natural predators, reaching extraordinary population densities across dense subtropical forest. With reportedly 1 snake per square meter in places, the Brazilian Navy prohibits public visits, permitting only scientists under strict supervision to study this uniquely dangerous ecosystem. Surtsey emerged off Iceland's southern coast when an underwater volcanic eruption breached the ocean surface between 1963 and 1967, building layers of basalt and tephra. Cooled by the North Atlantic's harsh climate, the island became a rare natural experiment in how life colonizes barren land. Seeds arrived via ocean currents, birds, and wind, gradually establishing mosses, grasses, and seabird colonies. UNESCO protection bans nearly all human entry, preserving the island as an untouched record of ecological succession from nothing. Once isolated in the Aral Sea between Uzbekistan and Kazakhstan, this island formed as receding shorelines exposed dry seabed, eventually merging it with the mainland entirely. From the 1950s to 1990s, Soviet scientists tested biological weapons here, including anthrax, plague, and smallpox strains, in near total secrecy. The Aral Sea's catastrophic shrinkage, caused by Soviet irrigation projects, transformed the surrounding region into a toxic dust bowl. Contaminated soil and buried pathogen stockpiles still make careless exploration a serious biological hazard today. Stretching across roughly 127,000 square kilometers of South Australia's arid interior, this zone occupies ancient red desert plains shaped by extreme heat and minimal rainfall. Since the 1940s, it has served as a missile and weapons testing range for Australian and Allied militaries. The harsh, sparsely vegetated terrain supports resilient desert wildlife and holds deep cultural significance for Indigenous Australians. Unauthorised entry remains illegal, protecting both ongoing defence operations and a landscape largely unchanged by modern development. Built into a sandstone mountain on Norway's remote Svalbard archipelago, this facility sits within the permafrost of the high Arctic, roughly 1,300 kilometers from the North Pole. Permanently frozen ground provides natural refrigeration, preserving millions of seed samples even during power failures. The surrounding landscape features glacier, fjords, and tundra shaped by ancient ice ages. Designed to withstand nuclear war and climate catastrophe, the vault's entrance stays locked, opened only briefly for scientific deposits under strict international agreements. Nestled in Russia's southern Ural Mountains, Mezgori sits near Mount Yamantau, a granite peak formed through ancient tectonic uplift. Thick coniferous forests and rugged ridgelines surround the town, offering natural concealment for a massive underground facility believed to exist within the mountain. Officially classified as a closed administrative territory since Soviet times, the city requires special permits for entry. Its true purpose remains officially undisclosed, feeding decades of speculation about nuclear bunkers hidden deep beneath the ancient rock. Located in western Saudi Arabia's arid Hijaz region, Mecca sits within a narrow valley surrounded by rocky desert mountains formed through ancient geological uplift. Extreme summer heat defines its harsh climate, historically shaping trade routes across the Arabian Peninsula. At the city's center stands the Kaaba, Islam's holiest structure, drawing millions of pilgrims annually during Hajj. Checkpoints on all approaching highways enforce entry restrictions, making Mecca one of the few places where religious law, not military force, defines a global exclusion zone. This barren triangle of desert lies along the disputed Egypt-Sudan border, created by conflicting colonial-era boundary maps drawn in 1899 and 1902. Scorching temperatures, sparse vegetation, and an absence of water sources define its harsh terrain. Because both nations formally reject ownership, preferring a more valuable neighboring region, Biatoral remains one of Earth's rare pieces of unclaimed land. Its extreme isolation, lack of infrastructure, and inhospitable climate make travel there exceptionally dangerous and almost entirely unattempted. Stretching roughly 48 kilometers across the Pork Strait between Sri Lanka and India, this chain of sandbanks and limestone shoals formed through centuries of sediment deposition and coral accumulation. Ancient Hindu tradition identifies it as the mythical bridge built by Rama's army, adding deep religious significance. Shallow waters historically prevented large ship passage, shaping regional trade routes. Today, patrol restrictions near the sensitive maritime border limit civilian access, protecting both fragile marine ecosystems and an unresolved boundary between two nations. Formed over millions of years as Antarctica drifted into polar isolation, the continent's ice sheet now holds roughly 70% of Earth's fresh water. Within this frozen expanse, designated specially protected areas shield pristine research sites, penguin colonies, and rare ice-free valleys from disturbance. The extreme climate, with temperatures plunging below -80 degrees Celsius, naturally limits access, while the Antarctic Treaty legally reinforces it. These sealed zones preserve some of the last truly untouched wilderness left on Earth. From radioactive ruins to sacred shrines, these forbidden zones remind us some places must stay untouched. Let us know your favorite below.